Hey everyone, this is George Couros. Welcome back to another episode of the highlights from the Innovator's Mindset podcast. I was just thinking I wanted to do this after a workout, needed to clear my mind, and something I always think about is how much better I feel and how much better I can serve others after I've taken care of myself. We often in education give so much to others that we have nothing left for the people closest to us or for ourselves. And what I found is when you take that time to just take some time to get a sweat on, to meditate, to read, it helps you reset your mind and you become way better for others. So don't forget that. And that's kind of one thing I wanted to share. But the other thing I want to share was this last week I was in Forney ISD, Forney, Texas, just outside of Dallas. Absolutely amazing school. And one of the things I really appreciate about that space is the excitement the adults and the kids have for what they're trying to accomplish. And years ago, I was in a school in Edmonton, Alberta. And one of the things I remember distinctly was when I walked in, you saw student pictures all over the place. I'm not talking necessarily only art, but actual students in the building. And it really influenced me as an administrator, as a teacher, on how much that mattered. I had a conversation with a student at that school because I was actually there because I was reffing a basketball game. And I said, how do you like the school? And they said, I love it. Absolutely love it. And they were so excited. And I just remember that feeling. And a book I've been reading is called AI Driven Leadership by Jeff Woods. And if I got the name wrong, I apologize. But he says something in the book that really stuck out to me is that authorship is ownership. When you see your fingerprints on the things that you go to every single day, the spaces that you are, you have more excitement about being there. And so it's something that I have really taken to heart. It's something I've always believed, but I just couldn't articulate it that well and that concise as that authorship is ownership quote. So think about that in your school, in the space that you are. Do the people you serve see their fingerprints in the spaces where they come to learn and work every single day? It really makes a difference in the excitement over what you're trying to achieve together. Just some thoughts, concise thoughts. Take care of yourself, and that's a way to take care of others and help others see themselves in the work that you do every single day. But if you didn't get anything from that, I promise you can get something from my wonderful guests this past month. I'm always blessed to have them. So welcome back to another highlight edition of the Innovator's Mindset podcast. Two of my favorite bands of all time are the Avett Brothers, who are actually from North Carolina. They're like,
Sure.
Scott Avett is like, I love him. His voice is so powerful. I've seen them in concert and they just sing. They just sing, play music.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then I go to Coldplay. Coldplay is one of my favorites. Their concert is a totally different experience. Lots of visuals, and it's not AI. So it's kind of like, for one, one is very different, but they're both powerful. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think sometimes what we see as like a monotonous is actually somebody's art, right? Somebody's flow state. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, well, first, congratulations on your taste. I've seen both of those artists live, and you're absolutely right. No, I saw Coldplay at the Toyota Center in Houston, and it's like
Incredible.
this overwhelming, yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredible, overwhelming,
Yeah.
like just visual experience. And
There's certain songs that I like better because I saw them in concert, and the thing that they did with them, I was like, what? Now I hear the song and I think about the experience, not the song. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to start to see a backlash to AI coming, where folks are like looking to see something as authentically human as possible. I think we might in the future see almost like organic products with the same labeling as like no AI, all human. There's going to be a value to that.
That's interesting.
And yeah, well, and I think that like not all AI is created equal. It will be as vague as you let it be. It will be as specific as you ask it to be. And behind the scenes, the way that these models work is they're taking an immense amount of training data, like basically all the public facing data on the internet. We can do this now because compute power is so cheap. You can just throw a bunch of servers at it for not nearly the money that would take a decade ago. And you can create something that is going to effectively like complete your sentence. Be like the most, the best way to create a lesson plan for, a seventh grade class talking about the Civil War, would be
Mm.
X. And it'd be this, and it would fill that out. But by definition, that content is average
Right.
because it is taking the average, the median, the
Mm.
expected of all of this. We have so many valuable characteristics as humans that are not average. And that's the value of, an educator in person, is being able to bring that out. And so again, this is why I think it's like an implementation problem. Like AI is going to keep getting better. Like today, as you were listening, this is the worst that any AI system will ever be. It's only continue that people are throwing more money at it.
Mm.
Today we saw the announcement from OpenAI that they are building $100 billion investment, building $100 billion system with NVIDIA, with Oracle. There's just going to be more advancement, more money thrown at this problem, and things are going to get better. What's up to us is the implementation of it, and how do we can build it to where it works the way that we work. And at Panorama, that's what we're thinking about at a district level.
Well, listen, I didn't know you before this, but I can't wait to see your session. So you're kind of blowing me away. This is absolutely incredible. So a lot of time people will think innovation is all about technology. And it doesn't mean that we exclude technology, but it's really kind of thinking about differently how we look at school. I even think how we look at teaching and learning and leadership. And so you mentioned one of the things that you have created is in the district with your team is the innovation hub. So, a lot of people have something that's called that, but like when you talk about the innovation hub, what is that exactly? And how does that actually really serve your learners today?
So we had a deep conversation around our multi-year strategic plan in our district, and we focus on three things. Obviously, the first and foremost is our learning agenda. And wrapped around that is our well-being and a sense of belonging for students. And we had a deep dive into conversations with students and staff. And we were really looking at how do we progress and how do we move as a district, and who are the students that we're serving, and what do we need to do and do differently
Mhm.
in light of where we are currently in education. And we landed on the fact that we really needed to empower students and make them feel that they belong. And we needed to elevate the work that we were doing in STEAM education because it looks different in every school. And so one of our strategies was to really land a secondary school that had a space that could actually be used not only to facilitate opportunities for learning, but also to create opportunities for community to engage with us. And so our space, which we launched in October, is an iHub. And within the iHub, there are a variety of different aspects to learn from science, technology, arts, math, and they're stations. They're created and built, connected to the curriculum,
Mhm.
but also connected so that classes can come in, and designed for students in grade 7 and 8, for example, who are moving into that family of schools, secondary, high school in a couple of years to see what's offered, but also designed to tap into students' interests. And we really based it in on what do we want to support students with.
Mhm.
And that was the original concept. We landed a high school, we landed feeder schools to come in, and we designed each of the stations independent of one another, but also complementary of one another so that students can find their niche. So that they have a passion and they can discover themselves within those stations. So there is an aspect to the Innovation Hub that develops and creates workshops and professional learning for educators to bring back to their classrooms, but for students and educators to come out and experience firsthand. The second aspect is that students can come in from that high school or other schools and explore their own passion and do their own research in this space.
Mhm.
And the third is how do we connect the community? We have lots of industry around us. We know that we have a huge focus on how we are going from a secondary school seamlessly into post-secondary or other pathways for students, whether it's work or college or university, certifications and degrees. So how do we create the inside out? And so that is the third part of our work. And that creates opportunities where our research lead works with our colleges and universities. And if they have things that they want to test or research, they can come into the space and we can have students test and experiment and research with universities and colleges. So
Yeah.
that's been the exciting aspect of our project.
The other thing I thought about, which is interesting, is really kind of how things shape up based on, because I was like, I'm in Canada when I'm teaching, and there was a K9, like I did K9 as a teacher, and then I did 712.
Mm-hmm.
And the middle school kids in both were very different, right? Because one, they're like the older kids, and
Mm-hmm.
one, they're like the little kids coming in. And it was like kind of interesting how it was like different, but they just always excelled. There was like some really uniqueness. The K9, they just really stepped up as leaders. There were such good interactions between the elementary kids and how really powerful, but they were like a little bit more timid in the high school.
Right.
But they all just wanted to know they were valued, and that's like every kid. So I love that. When we were talking about before, some of the things that you might want to share, or one of the things that you connected with was being in the principal position after the pandemic, which I don't know if we should even talk about happening.
I know.
It's almost like we don't want to acknowledge
I don't want
it.
to jinx it, but that's right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want it to happen again. So what's been some of the things that you've been dealing with like since then? And like, would you say, because I know you're a principal before, right? Like you've been a principal for a while.
Yes.
Changed. What's changed in the practice? Somebody actually asked me this. Is like, do you think the principalship changed? I'm like, I don't know if I could say that because I don't know the role, but
Yeah.
you're the expert on this. So tell me, like, how has it changed since the pandemic?
I don't know about expert, but I'm very happy to offer my 2.8 cents on the matter. So yeah, a lot has changed. Let's start with everyone's socialization got adjusted, and I'm gonna use positive words here.
That's a good term.
That's,
Got adjusted. I like that.
that's right. But we often attribute that to kids, but it's also adults. Our adults, and I think we're slowly emerging out of that adjusted phase, and we're getting back to really connecting with people. Having good, meaningful conversations instead of it all being blurred out there or feeling like you're one screen amongst many.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I think we're having to have a lot of conversations with people about how to deal with people effectively. So back in the day, we used to talk about effective teaching practices. Now it's also about effective people practices, effective connecting practices. I think about the adults in my school. So we are also a hard to staff school. So we have a lot of adults who are doing alternative licensure. Instead of coming straight out of college with a teaching degree and you're ready to be that middle school math teacher, this, that, and other, you have your degree and you're ready to, and you might want to be a teacher or you want to try that. We have a lot of teachers in that fit that bill. And we take it upon ourselves, and this is me, our assistant principal, Kelly Griffin, and our instructional coach, Abby Mickler. We talk so much about how to bring people up as good teaching our people who desire to be good teachers, teaching them to be good teachers. I think that coaching part is very different now than it was, when we first met, when we first connected. Is the principal's coaching skills has to be diverse, impactful, helpful, and it's a deeper wheelhouse. It's a deeper wheelhouse now.
You said something, and I don't know, trying to keep up with the kids.
Get it?
You said about being one of many screens.
Mm.
There's a term I've heard being like you're chronically online. And it's like, I don't know, like, and it's some of the people that I see just kind of ranting online,
right?
And just going off. And then I meet them and they're like, And then there's this misperception. It's like, hey,
Yes.
like that does connect that, you might distance yourself because of like you believe some of the stuff that people say when they're not have to like dealing with your face, dealing with your emotion. And that's like I thought about that chronically online. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like the world is actually not what you are projecting right now. And
Right.
I see it, I'm like, oh, like you're like online and I see you like yelling and screaming all the time. But then when I meet you in person, you're like shy and timid. And,
Yeah.
and so, do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like it's like two
Yeah.
different personas. So it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting.
That's
Yeah,
not relegated to students.
yeah. Oh, I'm
That's,
not talking. I
yeah.
didn't even
And
think
I know
about
you're not.
students.
That's right. I
Yeah,
wanted to highlight that point.
yeah,
That's not relegated to students. That's
yeah.
all of us are having to work out of
Mm,
something, and that's why, when we're in classrooms, seeing it's more critical now that connection,
mm,
the most important, what Jimmy says, the most important things that we can focus on, the three most important things we
mhm.
can focus on are relationships.
The last quote I'm going to share with you, that I'm going to give you a story with. As a leader, you must ensure your people are focused on the most important actions they can take in the short term to fortify your competitive edge in the long term. So there might be a little connection here in the sense that, or maybe a disconnect. I don't want people saying like, hey, short-term thinking actually leads to long-term goals. It's like, what can you do in the short term that will actually lead to long-term relationships, connection, building? And I think that to me is really important. And I remember I did Covey training years ago. I actually went through it myself as a participant, but then I actually led it. And there was one story that really, really connected with me. And I think about it all the time. I was actually basically a car rental place. And we'll make a connection to education real quick. A car rental place was actually really focused on basically the person who came back had brought their car. And I rent a lot of cars, because of my travels. And I've gone through this before. And it's really interesting when you go through it is, let's say you have it for a day, but then you bring it back 24 hours and 30 minutes later. So what a lot of car companies actually do is they charge you for an entire day. So instead of charging you for a day and 30 minutes, they charge you for 2 days. That's a huge amount of money for being, 30 minutes later than that day. And the person who had shared the story said, hey, listen, this is kind of ridiculous. Why would you actually, charge me extra for this amount of time when I'm like, and they're like, well, it's company policy, blah, 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 blah. And so they basically got an extra day. But the story that the person had shared was, yeah, they got an extra day, but I'm never renting from here again. And I'm like never going to actually rent from this place again. So they made, maybe $50, $100 more on that rental, but they lost thousands and thousands and thousands for someone who actually would share that. And this is something that happens way too often in business, is that the short-term win where people are trying to make, a few bucks here leads to a huge loss of profits over time. And one of the things that I share about is, the importance, and there's a study of Ohio State that says this actually is hugely beneficial, is spending 5-10 minutes greeting kids in the hallways before they enter the classroom. So it might seem like that's a huge amount of time. Everyone's busy, everyone's really struggling with this, but it's an investment. So if you spend that 5-10 minutes, connecting with people before they start, it's a short-term investment, but long-term, it's going to make your life easier.